No problem. Hello, everybody. It's good to see another jam-packed room. We're apparently not dealing with motor vehicles for hire this evening. Uh, Today is Monday, November 17th at 7:03 p.m. Call this meeting to order. Is there any public comment tonight? Anybody? Hi, Kim. You want to come and speak? We're in public comment. I thought you were making a grand entrance to the podium. And now on our consent agenda, we have minutes and the previously mentioned letter. By the way, I thought our person did a really nice job on that letter. I thought it was thorough, well constructed, and very fact-based, which is always wonderful. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
A second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Number 3, discuss and act on board, commission, and committees. A is appointing a school committee member. So we have, if I recall correctly, we have two people interested, Amanda and Greta Hines. But we have this other question, right? So is this an appropriate, or do we have to wait? You know what I mean? I was trying to figure out the sequence.
Sure. And it is a separate agenda item
Yes.
earlier down on your agenda, but you may want to give some background at this point.
Okay. So kick me under the table, Millie, if I'm wrong, but the challenge is the state statute and our charter is pretty clear that if you work for the school, you can't be on the school board. Okay. State statute says if you want to enable is I don't know whether Jim is on, but if you want to enable town employees to run for school board, you have to pass an ordinance to that effect.
Or have it spelled out in your charter.
Gotcha.
And ours doesn't prohibit them, but it doesn't specifically allow or grant.
Right. So I don't know whether Millie has talked to you about this. So the challenge is given the urgency, this is my opinion now, given the urgency of the appointment and the fact that it would take us several weeks, even if we wanted to act as quickly as possible to enable. And in my opinion, we ought to, I don't know whether you can draw this line, but to me, I don't think department heads should be able to run, but I think staff should. That's just my opinion. But anyway,
So I would say, based on the immediacy of everything, that I make a motion to appoint Greta Hines
yeah,
to
that's
the school committee.
that's kind of what, because, but the
But
reason I was addressing
I'll second.
Amanda is that I was so happy to see that she had
yeah,
applied, and then we get into this technical thing, and I don't want her to think that we weren't, you know what I mean? I love you, and I think you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
And I hope that, so.
I think that's a perfect example of why we should go ahead and do that.
I
Because
agree.
it's
I
hard enough to
agree.
get people,
Yes,
offer to run.
Yeah.
So yes, we will.
yeah.
So that's a
please.
complication we could clear up. I had one question though, because Greta says she substitutes at the school. Can you substitute?
I did talk to her about that.
Okay.
She has not substituted since I think it was 2010.
Oh,
So that's not an issue.
got it. Got it.
So she's no Molly O'Neill, is what you're
I
saying.
want
Motion's been made and
first,
seconded to
No.
appoint Greta Hines, all
didn't want to have a complication. that's all.
absolutely. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Greta, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. Can we just adjust the agenda and deal with that one at the same time now? Which number is that? Well, I still think we should.
Yeah,
we
no,
should
I mean,
change-
in other words, I think when we get there, we'll just say, we should do this.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Um, consider enlarging the membership of the AARP Age-Friendly Community Task Force. What are our numbers of volunteers?
So at this point, you have 10 volunteers. And if I can make a recommendation.
Yes, please.
If we used to have, right now you have a membership of 7,
Seven.
but you have a number of people who would like to serve. So the senior advisory committee right now has 9 members with, excuse me, 10, because there's 9 sitting and then
Yeah.
there's 1 alternate.
Yeah.
And so I would recommend if you were game to go ahead and.
I
with
am
that
game to
membership.
do that. Can we do that as a simple motion or would we need to agenda it?
It's actually, I mean, it's already agendaed
Agendaed
there,
here.
so.
So you're saying to point, I'm sorry.
So
Okay.
could we have 2 alternates, you think?
It's a typical process to have an odd number of seats just for quorum purposes.
I mean, so if I were to make a motion that we appoint all of these people who have applied, would that be?
So this is my question. We can act on a motion saying, let's expand the age-friendly task force, whatever it's called, to 10. And that is appropriately before us.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that'd be.
Okay, great. I'm not trying to argue with you. I just don't want to get stuck having to do this twice. So what do we think an appropriate number is? Would it be I can't imagine this is gonna be a committee with a lot of tie votes.
Or that they'll all be there at the same
Or
time.
that they'll all be there at the same time.
Yeah.
So I would make a motion to expand it to, what do we have, 10 applicants? I would make a motion to expand it to 10 people.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Then I would make a motion to appoint all of those who have been kind enough to advance their names, place their names before us as members.
So,
That'd be-
so that would be Carolyn
yeah,
Benjamin,
I'd be happy to read
Rick
through them.
Brethaway, Marguerite Donnelly, Sandra Kelly, Neil Murphy, Sarah Mott, Alicia Miro, Jim McCormick, Hillary Transu, and Chuck McMillan.
Yes.
So I'll second that.
One item of discussion is that it's good to see a range of ages here. I'm really gratified by that. Because it's not just for people who are needing services now or need services imminently, but what does the structure look like over time?
Yeah.
So we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it.
And does it say that the committee itself, once they're organized, will deal with the 2-year staggered terms?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
I'd note with regret Andy's resignation from the Police Advisory Commission. If we can, I'd love to send him a letter, if you don't mind.
Okay, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The vacancies, commercial motor vehicles for hire, coastal resilience, senior advisory, police advisory. Is that police advisory Andy's spot or is that the one? Yeah, okay, great. All right, next we have discuss and act on direction to the planning board to draft a zoning ordinance regulating cannabis retail operations, location from schools, daycares, place of worship, hours of operation, et cetera. For those of you who look at clerk base, just want to mention this. In our packet, there's a note from Sans Payne saying we don't need cannabis dispensaries. Important to note, please, that we don't have that choice. When the statute passed towns were given the authority to put this before their voters as to whether they would or would not like to enable cannabis dispensaries. That question had an overwhelming yes vote. Therefore, we can't say we don't want dispensaries because it was a ballot question. So whether you agree or disagree with Sands, I just feel like it's important that people know that it's not, this is really a question of location and site sort of regulation of where they could be. In my own opinion, I think we'd ought to be very careful and thoughtful about this. And ought to ask the planning board to look at it. Is that, I mean,
Well,
because
yeah.
as it stands now, we don't have.
But we can direct the planning board to just to approve one retail operation. We're not mandated by the state statute to have more than.
I think that's right.
Yeah. And we can, limited hours of operation.
Yeah,
Beyond that, I leave it to the planning board
yeah,
to be able to figure out what's
Mhm.
a good place.
yeah.
So they'll come back with like a zone or an area, or what are we asking exactly?
There'll be they'll put together an ordinance.
They'll,
Right?
yes, they'll put together an ordinance. If there's any direction or guidance that the council wanted to provide in your request, you can certainly articulate that.
And I think before they get too far down the road, if there's something here between what we see, the school, the daycares, we probably should let them know that, so it might help with their direction.
Sort of at a superficial level, the first step that we were thinking of was parallel to the regulations that currently exist for where you can cite, for example, a liquor store in terms of distance, hours of operation, somebody mentioned. But because it is a zoning ordinance, it does need to be referred through planning. So
And just one. That was the other.
that I think we do need to check on. I'm not sure that we can take that step, but we can ask them to look at it in their exercise.
Is,
Weren't they based off of, I'm sorry.
Well, I was gonna say, I'm just to put it out there, I would be looking for a distance further than liquor
Than
is
the
like
200
200
feet.
feet or something. I would be looking for something more like quarter mile, half mile, 3/4 of a mile away from a school
13 rings.
or a daycare or a church. I think it's a very different type of business. It's not exactly like, a liquor license goes with a restaurant. Right.
And by definition, it is a retail use. And so there are some definitions around retail establishments in general in our ordinances. So it needs to intersect with that as well in terms of being in the commercial districts.
and can I ask Nick? Is Nick, are you there?
I am.
Jim, Nick, you're there.
Hi, Nick.
Hello.
Under the state legislation, can we limit the cannabis retail store to just one?
That's as that was discussed in the room. That was my recollection. I'm happy to check it. And as we have discussions as this continues, give you a firm answer on that. But for what it's worth, that was my recollection.
Yeah, I don't think we need any more than one for sure.
I think it had, when you read the law, I think it had to do with its populations and what
Yeah.
we were allowed to do.
And to date, we have not had any applications. The state portal is
Right.
currently open, but we had inquiry and so wanted to put those in place.
I really appreciate you
advance.
flagging this because it's. one
I
of
would,
those-
I would also require that if we're gonna have one, that it would be year round. So that, right, it has to be year round.
Under their state license.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, don't forget, there may be things that the planning board fails to put in, and it does come before us.
Ultimately, it's
Yeah,
our choice.
yeah.
So,
Do we want to have, to digest this a little bit in our next meeting, be able to give something to the planning board? How soon is the planning board gonna act on this?
Amanda?
I would get it to them. You know, we don't want to be in a position of intending to put an ordinance on the books and not having it. So I'm not sure I would delay too long, particularly if we're looking for something pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I just think that, like Molly said, I agree with her on this. I probably would want to be give some direction a little farther away than just the 200 and so forth. But I'd like to give it a little bit of thought. I just don't want them to put a lot of time into something and suddenly, if we know out of the gate, we're looking a little bit different direction. That's all. So, I don't know whether we should attend their meeting or what's the best way to.
My name's Amanda Boulay. I do work here, but just a comment listening as a guest about this one is I 100% understand the footage against being further away, but also just a side note, like rentable commercial space that's available from someone who has to do all the signs, like there's not a lot of space, so the further you limit it, the more you limit up business. Like the commercial spaces that are available for rental, like, just consider that when you're looking at the footage.
Exactly.
And I was thinking when we said year round, that also limits the available space that's heated in the winter. What?
Well, Millie and Amy, I would ask, sort of, this is a bit to Bill's question, and to point that Nancy was making about the single. Could our motion say that we're asking them to look at, draft an ordinance, and that the sense of the council is that the appropriate sites should be as far away from family-oriented uses, and would prefer a limit of one.
And limited hours of
And
operation.
limited hours of operation, yes. Could we make a motion like that frames it a little better? Does that? make
Sure,
sense?
yes.
Yeah.
My main thing was just to give a
Yeah,
little guidance.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Look forward to see what they come back with. I mean, the intent isn't to make it so it can't happen, that we just
Right.
want to be responsible. where it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. So I would make the motion to ask the planning board to draft an ordinance regarding the regulation of cannabis retail operations, and that council's perspective on this is that appropriate site should be as far away from family uses, family activities as possible. That there be a limit to one license, and that there be that they regulate hours of operation. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Does that work?
It's all heat.
All right. We're back. Everything old is new again. Nick,
Yes.
can you draft us an ordinance enabling town employees to run for the school board?
I can, and I know the folks sitting to all your left, that being Amy and Millie. I already have some ideas. I talked to them both this afternoon, and I think we'll have something to you folks in short order.
That's great. Thank you, Nick.
Of course.
Jim Jeremiah, geez, 2 meetings in a row.
Two in a
Hot
row.
dog, it's like-
Best thing on Monday nights.
Yeah, right. Talk to us, brother. What about-
Okay, in June of this year, DEM came out to inspect the transfer station. And in their review, they had several comments, some is more significant than others. Their comments focused on primarily the westerly slope of the transfer station. The revetment stone that we placed back in 2019 are starting to get undermined. And the town recognized that, at the beginning of this year, and an application was submitted to CRMC to expand and to continue placing revetment stone there. So that was a key element that they wanted to be corrected. They said immediately, it's going to take more than immediately. It'll take some planning and financial, and I'll get into that in a minute. Along with that, they were commented on the containers. If you've been to the transfer station, the operation has the containers stored technically away from the transfer station into what is called the landfill site, or lot 40. They kind of objected to that, but recognizing the limited space, they will allow you to use that space to hold those containers if you put concrete slab and store them on a concrete slab. Because what they're concerned with is the placement of a 2-foot cap of material, that if we stop placing these containers, that 2-foot cap of the landfill will no longer be there. And then you'll be exposed to the trash that was placed there many years ago.
Jim?
Yes.
Hey, Jim, can I ask a question? The containers you're talking about, if you were, where people go down and throw near the compactor, would that be towards the ocean in front there?
Towards the ocean, on the upper hill, that's the westerly side of where they throw the trash and where the compactor is.
And those containers that are usually full that are stored there, or are they?
No, they're empty. He brings them over, but you need to have places to store these containers, whether it's for sludge, whether it's for trash, recyclables. So you need to kind of move those. You need to have excess material, and he cannot store it. Well, he can't. The landfill or the transfer site is extremely tight, and to move material off island, and with boat schedules and boat cancellations in the winter months, you do need these containers. So the placement of a concrete slab, to me, is not a big deal, but again, it has to be budgeted for.
Jim, just so that I'm clear from Bill's question.
Yeah.
And I'm dangerous because I just opened Google Earth. Are we talking about where the compactor is, or further down West Beach Road where there's sort of a sandy lot that has what looks like trucks or containers?
Further down West Beach Road. That's
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. That's helpful. Thank you.
Just as
think
the
you
practical
said
matter though, doesn't it, you put a concrete slab, aren't you adding weight and making it worse rather than,
No, what they're concerned with is not the weight, but as you place the containers with roll-offs, they're
Yeah.
afraid that the 2-foot of topsoil that is, we had to put in special topsoil that's, meets their criteria. They're afraid that that's going to tend to erode. So they prefer to have it capped with concrete in order to prevent that erosion from capped material, let's call it. The weight doesn't really, it could float, that slab can float a little bit. It's just to prevent any penetrations into the landfill. As you recall, that landfill, the capping, what the town did in 19, it has 2 feet of material. My staff and I witnessed that. What happened from, let's call it lot 39, I believe. It was put in before my time there. So that's what they're afraid of.
okay,
So, but I want to, as we go through the final closure of this landfill, there are a couple of items that the council is going to need to act on. The easy ones that don't cost too much is that we have to develop an environmental land use restriction deed. So that property has to have that land use restriction in it in order for it to become a closed landfill according to DEM standards. What that means is there's going to be a monitoring plan and it's going to be a soil erosion control plan. Each one of those are going to require somebody to sample the groundwater, to sample the erosion that takes place during storm events, and semi-annually, write a report, and in that annually submit to DEM all of the conditions that you've experienced at the landfill. So somebody needs to then take that on as a task to make sure this is accomplished, and especially the sampling of the monitoring wells. We put in 3 monitoring wells in 2019. So that has to be continually to be monitored. One of the things that when the town manager and I were talking about this is in the monitoring plan, we took out the monitoring for gas. Because at this point, we don't, it is not a closed landfill that it has a clay layer over it that the gas is contained internal to that space. It is all the soil around it allows the gas to escape from the side. So there is no potential for explosion or hazardous material, unlike if you've been in Narragansett, the Rose Hill landfill, for example. That has a flare. So any of the gases that come off are flared. In your case, we don't have a clay layer. It's just 2 feet of soil, and that's all they required us to do at the time. So we're hoping that they agree with us and we don't have to monitor for gas levels at the site. We did do it when we made the revetment project, and we found that the gas levels were very, very low. There was 1 or 2 spots that were higher than normal, and that's more closer to what I'll call the transfer station portion of it. So we're going to respond appropriately to DM, and hopefully they will buy into that discussion.
Jim, can I ask, who does that monitoring? Is that a private agency or?
You're gonna have to hire, right now you have Coastal Environmental, I believe. Ernie George does the monitoring, and he can continue, he does the oil water separators. His firm can continue doing the monitoring, or you can hire, he can coordinate with an analytical firm to do that, to do the monitoring. But now to do the reporting, there'll be somebody like Public Works or Ernie George's group to do that monitoring report. Make sure it's submitted on the 15th of March every year, because that's how they can, get into trouble if you don't do that. But the most important one, and Amy and I have been talking about this, is the revetment. That revetment needs to be upgraded. And so the original project was $1.7 million. That's all the town had in their budget, and we did as much as we could at that time. During that 2019 project, I just want to highlight some of the things we did. There was over 200 tons of recyclable metal that we took out of that landfill and brought to the state landfill, because it was just causing too much of a problem. It was too close to the surface. We installed over 2,500 tons of revetment stone along that shoreline. And through the years, it's more of the southerly side of that revetment that gets that wave action. All of you have been on the island for long enough to know how the storms come in on that side. So we want to work that corner and then make our way all the way up, because the original plan had us going up to, I believe, elevation 18. And we're now, we need to expand on that. So when we applied back in February, CRMC did give us the approval to continue that. Bearing in mind that it needs to get done within the next couple of years. it's gonna require close to $4 million of work that'll have to be undertaken. And the problem is with this particular action, there's no place, if we had an area to store revetment stone, we could do it in phases. We can buy revetment stone, place it on site, and then once we have enough revetment stone, we can then hire a contractor to do the placement. In this particular case, we have no place to store this. We're talking 7-ton rock. This is not small pebbles. You know, we're talking 7 tons, minimum of 7 tons per stone. So we need to consider, the town needs to consider when you're gonna do this in the budgetary requirements accordingly.
Hey, Jim,
yes.
can I ask,
Sure.
is the $4 million number, does that include the concrete pad? Or are those two different projects?
I didn't even include, the concrete pad
Okay.
is not that expensive.
Yeah.
That
Jim,
kind
is there any outside sourcing that you're aware of?
The only outside sort, we tried it, I believe Nancy was there at the time when we started to do this back in Hurricane Sandy. That's how far back this goes.
Yeah.
Once we get federal money, it requires an archaeological, and the archaeology and the archaeological study, or the initial assessment was that the Native Americans, or we needed to do an archaeological for the shoreline. And then we needed to do an archaeological underwater, because the University of Rhode Island and their staff found that, obviously we all know that the shoreline has been receding through the centuries. They found that obviously the original shoreline was further out to sea. So that study was going to cost you $250,000 of local money. And then the solicitor, and if something was found, you would lose the money, lose the grant. Solicitors recommended that we didn't do that, that we just proceeded with the local budget money of 1.7 and do the work there. We did accomplish quite a bit. We put revetment stone in. We put the pathway that they wanted to connect the north and south sides of the transfer station. We closed the landfill with topsoil, approved topsoil. We removed the 200 tons of material, and we also cleared up the shoreline. Now, for some reason, there's more metals that are appearing on the shoreline that need to be cleaned up. So that needs to be cleaned up with Public Works or somebody to get out there at low tide and start taking the metal that's there. In the previous project, we took out engine blocks, front ends of cars. We took out over 2,000 rubber tires from this project. So the town cleaned that landfill up. And as you notice, when you go there, there's not a lot of debris as it was 5 or 6 years ago. It's clean, it's well operated. We just don't want to lose the edge of the landfill. Because, that landfill, when I first started, was further out to sea than it is right now, as everybody knows.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted, the town manager wanted me to kind of explain this. We'll be responding to DM's comments and concerns. But it's going to, whether you budget in this year or next year, it has to be considered, because at some point in time, sooner than later, that revetment has to be fixed.
Jim, how long could the phases be dragged out with the hopes that, if you had a couple of 4 million, maybe we're spending over 2-3 years or whatever it might be?
You can drag it out. It just costs you more for mobilization. Every time in a project of this nature, in the way the logistics are, every time you start and stop, you're going to have a mobilization, and an overhead cost that is gonna contribute and not do anything more than spend money. So that's the only disadvantage. The other, we would have to go to a plan to DM air and hazardous to ask them to allow us to do it over a phased period of time. Certainly can be done, but recognize there are mobilization and demobilization costs associated with it. We would start on the south end and work our way north, and come up and go over. It kind of disturbs everything we've done, but yes, it can, to answer your question simply, yes, it can be done in phases.
And can I
But-
just ask, how far north would it go?
It
Would it
goes
get-
right to the end of the town property, which is where the wetlands are on the north side.
So that's like Wash Pond there,
Yes. I
But not
believe
as-
that's,
but not as far as Middle Pond.
no.
No.
Okay.
So
And
do we have enough money this year to get Jim to put together a whole plan with a number that we can start with,
we have the approved plan. You have the approved plan. CRMC is given that. The only thing I don't have is a final estimate. It's my budget number. We can get a better number for that. But the plan and the approval process started. You've got the approval from CRMC is 5 years. One of the problems, we did not renew the previous application. And so it's very critical that over the course of time, even if we do it in phases, that after a 5-year period, we renew that permit. So we don't have to go back and reapply.
Yeah.
And how long will they extend that for, Jim?
They usually will do it one more time for 2 years at a time. So we get another 4 years out of it, but at that point, the shoreline will start to disappear. if We don't do something.
And Amy, I think there's another of other issues down there I think we have to address also. Is it with the compactor and that?
Yeah, this is separate from our operational and infrastructure considerations, which are also on the table.
So I think we're looking at a lot of spending down there
Mhm.
that we have coming up.
And we used to have a yearly contract or a automatic renewal contract with Ernie George for the wells. Can we get in touch with him and see whether he would consider handling this environmental monitoring report if and when we get to that stage?
Those are the conversations we're going to have
Yeah.
about whether they can complete the full scope of what needs to be done there or whether we need to go out to bid more broadly.
Okay.
I
What-
did make some calls to Ernie's office. He was on vacation, so I'm trying to touch base with him, give him a heads up on what we're doing so that he, get his input. Because he's been doing it for a very long time. And
Yeah.
I'd like to have him, because he knows the landfill, he knows the sampling results. It would be great for him to continue that work.
What concerns me is that, if we put this off and then we have a $4 million item that we don't have a choice because of regulations where, my thought is when I said kind of drag it out, what I meant was coming in, can we allocate maybe starting this year going on out so we don't have it all in one shot. So I wasn't thinking so much of the mobilization, them being down, whether it's materials, whatever it might be. Is there a way, which I would defer over to you and Mona, is there a way that we can spread this out the court, you know what I'm saying? So it's not all in one shot.
That's what we'll look at, whether this is the right project to try to fund out of pocket incrementally, or whether that's better addressed at a smaller bite of something, and knowing that this really should be executed at once, whether this is your borrowing opportunity and something else gets funded out of pocket.
Yeah. Yeah.
The fact that this really can't be done successfully incrementally,
Sure.
for me leans towards doing it all in one bite.
Yeah, and this is one of those things we talked about a couple of meetings ago. These aren't the nice shiny things,
Yeah.
the
No.
school and so forth.
Yeah.
whether it be this or whether it be the outlet at the sewer company. I think we need to look at all those together and just,
You know, and it, obviously the big numbers are big, but the closure plan, I think Jim and I are working pretty hard at minimizing that, which can carry a lot of operating costs. You know, so trying to make sure that we're not on the hook indefinitely for a monitoring plan that is really costing us out of pocket. So balancing that side as well.
Right.
what is
Bill-
a ballpark monitoring plan? Any idea? Just,
I don't know what the analytical testing is. That's what's gonna be the biggest one, is the bringing, so you gotta sample it. I can get that for you to give you an idea from a budgeting standpoint moving forward. Because in next year's budget, you're gonna have to include some of this, even if we don't do the revetment, you're gonna have to, the council, the town is gonna have to implement at least the land use restriction and the monitoring plan, because it's long overdue.
so the concept is that if we can get these preventments obligations or whatever taken care of, the monitoring may be able to go away. That's our goal, correct?
No, we're trying to reduce the requirements. You will have an annual monitoring plan. You'll have to test groundwaters. You've been testing groundwater since 1990.
Right.
In that area. You're gonna continue to test it. Amy and I are trying to get a termination time, because they talk about 30 years. Well, we've already had the 30 years.
Right.
We've exceeded 30 years. So where does the 30 years stop? Or are we gonna start it all over again? So those are the questions that we need to get our response out to them. They'll come back, and I see negotiations going on as to what the duration is.
Thank you.
So at some point, we'll see some numbers that are not gonna make
Yes.
us happy, but they're gonna be
You'll
out.
see some numbers and you'll see some of those restrictive documents
Yeah.
that the council will act on.
Yeah,
Isn't that property restricted by deed
Yes,
to a landfill anyway?
this is in addition.
They need more than that?
They do.
well, they give us the framework of what they want to see, but Amy and I have been editing it specifically for the island and the conditions. But so we had to redline this document, have to get it over to them, DM, to comment on it, and then come back with the final version. We will then give it to the solicitor to go over it, but it has to be, I checked. I thought originally there was a environmental land restriction on that property, and we looked at everything. Fortunately, I found surveys and deed descriptions, so that saved us a lot of money. But with the help of the town.
I I know from previous lifetime experience how challenging these things can be to negotiate and put together. And I really appreciate the work you guys are doing on it. It's frustrating, but it's also a responsibility to do it, you know? So
Good luck.
it's as Bill says, it's not a shiny new toy, but it's
An obligation.
part of governing, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
You're welcome. Any other questions on it? This is.
Oh, we'll have them. Don't worry. Have a great night, man.
You too. Thank you, and have a great
you.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, Jim.
Too, Jim.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Amy, you're up.
So you have a shorter town manager's report, but we got some good things going on. We've got 35 applications for the mini grants, $65,000 worth of applications. So those will come before the council in December for recommendation and award. The committee is going through those now, which is great. In land use, you can see a lot of meetings there on their to-do list.
Yeah.
I just want to recognize the staff there.
Yeah.
They've had a lot of special meetings, some due to deadlines, some due to quorum issues. But the effort that it takes to support that is tremendous. So
Amy, on the, back on the mini grant, what did we budget for that? Was that 30,000?
I don't remember exactly what we budgeted, but there's also been a donation from the Young Foundation to bring us up to last year's funding level. So in aggregate, we're at the same.
Great.
I think we did. I
So-
think we did 40.
Total is 32. So maybe
32 from us
total.
total.
Great.
Uh,
Just some additional clarity since we keep talking about DOT. That final STIP was adopted, the Transportation Improvement Plan, and it did include the 20 million. Not all of that is obviously funded, and so that'll be our exercise when we speak with the lobbyists, but at least it is planned for as a placeholder. Again, we know 20 million is a drop in the bucket relative to what we need, but it gives us a platform from which to have those next conversations.
Terrific.
Jim, Mike, and I are meeting with DOT sometime in the next 10 days. So, and then some updates from the school committee, which is having their meeting at the same time. But the more interesting one, or the more compelling one over time, will be the stage 2 application, where they have gone out to bid for architectural and engineering services. They have selected a firm and are negotiating the scope and the cost of preparing that stage 2. In terms of timeline, they currently are intending to have a question at the May financial town meeting that outlines the next steps of their proposed plan with a number for the voters to consider.
So is this is this a whole new plan?
This is the whole new plan. This is a brand new stage 2 that builds on the stage 1 and then the education master plan that Civic did. And so Civic is still on board with them, but those are some of the workshops that have been held over the last 12 months. All of that will feed into this next stage 2 application. The next opportunity for them to submit that, because you can only submit those twice a year, will be September of 26. But their goal is ideally to have that a number to bring in front of the voters and a project in May.
So this may be a whole brand new project.
Yes.
From what okay.
I would expect it to be entirely different from what
Okay.
you've seen before. And we would go through that exercise that we've talked about at this table of sort of extinguishing the old authority and really considering the new project with a fresh set of eyes. But we'll continue to see that evolve over the next few months.
Can you say what is going on at the library that's preventing activities from happening at the library?
What kind of activities?
Their Christmas party, pie sale.
So they are in the process of reconsidering some of their food service within the library programming and within the library building. I don't want to get out ahead of the trustees, but that's something that they're looking at. So
Just curious.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there was like work going on. That's what it sounded like.
combined with, in that context, they've got the elevator, they've had duct cleaning, I think today, they are doing a fair amount of infrastructure and facility work as well. And I think all of those get to how do they use and maintain the facility going forward.
Okay. And what is the status of the PACE initiative with the Department of Human Services? Is that moving forward? Is that?
I don't want to say it's stalled a little bit, but it is because it became integrated into the rural health transformation grant application. We are in a way waiting for that to come back.
Okay.
Because that'll determine whether it has funding directly supporting it or whether we continue to push that initiative as a standalone.
Got it.
So we should hear from that in the next 6 weeks or so.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
And on the dispatches, does that bring us up to full complement with the 2 new?
Recognizing that they're not fully up to speed,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, good.
I think we will continue to look for bodies so that we have additional capacity.
Sure.
But that does bring us back to baseline.
Any other questions for Amy? Anything else you want to?
Just on that, if DOT, do we sign that agreement, that road agreement and send it back?
We did. As a refresher, we executed the agreement and told them that if they were not making meaningful progress towards capital investments on Block Island by July 1 of next year, we would be terminating the agreement. So we will have that first check-in with the director. Like I said, this week, next week, I don't remember exactly the date because it moved, about what kind of funding they are really putting behind the plan that they've adopted.
Okay, good.
So,
And that's July of this coming July?
July 126, yeah.
Great.
And so I also expect that to be a topic of our meeting with May 4th in terms of a strategy for working either alongside or on our own in terms of funding for the projects that we need to have completed.
In being an election, this is a good year to make a push.
And if in advance of our meeting with May 4th, can you let them know, I think we ought to be making a push towards the rethinking the Taylor Swift tax.
Yes,
Try
that's
to
on our
get-
agenda.
Garner some support from the other places that have just woken up to it.
We're going to talk about a recommended strategy for the town to take a position on that as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Amy or Mona, do you want to walk us through the next agenda item? Is that you, Mona?
So what we have here is my recommendation to engage the accounting firm Clifton Larson Allen to assist us in the finance department with some assistance, particularly in the audit area, but there's some other projects as well that I'm interested in some assistance with. And so, we have the vacant deputy finance director position. Typically, they would play a large part in doing some of this audit work and some of the preparation for it. And I'm just needing some skilled assistance there that I don't think hiring somebody that I would be able to bring them up to speed in the capacity that we need right now to keep working efficiently. And so they are part of the state's master pricing agreement, which means we don't have to go out to bid, that their rates are pre-negotiated, they're qualified. They themselves conduct municipal audits. So they're very aware of all of the processes and the, generally accepted accounting principles, as well as some of the new GASB statements that we have to implement this year, or for fiscal year 25. So that, I would start with the audit would be my first focus. And this would not exceed the amount that's budgeted for the deputy finance director, salary plus benefits. So it wouldn't have, a negative impact on the budget, and I'd keep an eye on that. And if it looked like it was getting close to that, we would just stop and, any remaining projects we'd discuss in the next budget work session. They have, they're familiar with our accounting software, which is very helpful, AccuFund. And I just think it's going to be the most efficient means of accomplishing our goals right now.
Sure.
It makes sense.
I think I'm, as I said to you in passing today, Mona, I'm really happy that you brought this to us because it, you can't leave a deputy finance position open forever and expect not to have things fall through the crack in an area where things can't fall through the cracks. So I think it's a thoughtful and proactive approach to this. So thank you.
And I think even if you found somebody to hire as a deputy finance director, this would be a tough time going forward to train them,
Yeah.
get them acclimated and get everything else done.
Absolutely. And not necessarily because of their skill level, but maybe just our nuances here or.
Yeah.
And also there's just some different processes that I need to update there that we haven't, like the electronic PO system. Want to get a payment portal for the sewer and water. That they've been wanting that for a very long time. That's just two of a list that I have, and I don't want to bring somebody in and then change everything on them. So I just want to have things really nice in place so they can come in and we can start from there.
Well, makes sense.
You need a motion for that or?
Yeah, if the council could authorize us to enter into an agreement, that would be helpful.
Give me a motion for that. Sure, I'll make a motion. We enter into the agreement.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Thank you, Mona.
Next. Round of Financials.
Mona, was this a 1 year or was this a ongoing or?
What's that? Oh, how long the
Yeah,
term of
what's the
this would be?
duration?
For now, I'm just for the remainder of the fiscal year. And then we'll revisit if we still have open projects that I feel need to happen before we're ready, then we'll talk about that, at the budget work sessions. All right, so on to the financials for October.
Is there anything that sticks out to you, Mona?
Just, I guess, a couple things to note is we're going to see, you'll see large increases on the tax revenue page, and that's in the lines of the prior property and auto taxes and the interest on them due to a large property sale that was made, and we were able to capture all of those outstanding charges.
Okay.
We've got short-term rentals coming in at $45,600 so far. Bulk of that being collected in the month of October. Our hotel cottage tax combined was increased by 27% compared to last year. And the meals tax increased by 22%.
So the cottage tax that you're talking about, that's not the 1% tax, is it? For the,
Not for the housing board, not that 1%. but
no,
the,
what is this one?
Well, it's the combined, so it would be I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head. I think it's a 5% and a
This is the hotel.
1%.
hotel
Yeah,
tax.
there's two components
Okay.
of that. Is that right? We have the right amounts,
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the 5%
right?
on hotels. There's also a 1% on hotels that increases to 2% January 1. And there's a 1% on what we call the cottage tax, home rentals, not the housing board, but all of that aggregates together into this line. And we knew that that was going to be above our budget because the state law changed after we adopted ours.
Mhm.
So
And the state used to give us a little more detail there and divide those numbers. Now it's just kind of a lump sum. So that's how we're going to be looking at it
Right.
going forward
Right.
until we have the option of more detail.
And sorry, I forgot on that list, the 5% whole home tax, which was also new, is effective January 1, 26. So that will start to flow through as well, although you're not seeing it yet.
And that is distributed in the same format as the hotel tax?
That is all jumbled together now in a way that makes it hard to know what's what.
And there's no backup
like-
available, no detail provided.
20%.
So it's hard to back into the kind of total sales like we used to
Right.
be able to do more effectively. Other than that,
So am I reading this wrong, or were the rentals that we took in at the beach and the Coast Guard lower than expected?
Let me take a look at that.
Or am I reading it backwards?
I'm sure it's correct. Let's see.
4270 line.
Okay.
No, yeah, sorry.
So for instance, like Fred Benson, is that what you're talking about?
So Fred Benson beach room rental and Coast Guard station
It's
rent.
sure. So it's probably, first of all, look at the year-to-date actual instead of the timing of the month-to-date. I think that's helpful. So, you know, Fred Benson is on par, 12,000 for the beach rent. Oh, it's because that's the restaurant rent. And then as far as the room rent, that's also stable. Coast Guard station rent is up. If you look at the year-over-year index, that's helpful to kind of give you an idea if we're up or
Okay,
down.
okay, I
Yeah,
am
so the
reading it backwards.
112. Miscellaneous, for instance, miscellaneous rents would be down. It's such a tiny amount, it doesn't
Mhm.
matter, but that's
And am I reading this right? Did we get the state road $500,000? It looks like it under year to
we
date.
booked it as a receivable.
So we have not received it. That'll be another part of our conversation. They have not paid us for last year or this year.
Or this year?
So they now owe us $1 million.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we have a lot to talk about.
yes.
Some sense of whether we're unique in that regard.
No, we are not unique.
I mean, that in a way is better. Better is the wrong word. but,
The fact that there's no money for
Yeah.
anyone, as opposed to just us.
It's nothing personal.
Right, yeah. Huh. Okay.
Anyone else have questions on the remainder of the financials?
The visitor center rent,
Hmm.
was that,
That's,
don't we work something on, or?
yeah, and you'll see the offset of that. So you're on you're looking at the revenue side of it, right? If you look at the expense side where we
Yep.
provided $10,000 less than what was budgeted. So
Gotcha.
community center, or community support, sorry, 1060. Okay. Ready to move on to the next item?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Right. I'll do my best here. Amy is definitely better in the language, this arena of it. So as part of our process for getting these $4 million school bond, we did have to go through the ratings process again with S&P, and they did affirm our AA rating. So that's great. AAA is the highest, and the lowest they identify as D or junk. So we're doing pretty darn good. We're happy to maintain that. That credit rating has an effect on your, it gives you better terms in bonds, and then it makes them more marketable to the buyers, people who would like to invest there. And it's basically just an assessment of your bond's creditworthiness, the likelihood that we're going to repay. And so the notes that they made supporting their decision in this report called out our sizable property tax base. They predicted, they expected that property tax revenues would remain predictable, which they generally do for us. They pointed out our desirable seasonal destination and kind of our buy-in into affordable housing initiatives, which will give us, that gives us the access to workers on island and just a healthier, more robust workforce. They also called out our focus on some resiliency strategies and also cyber awareness knowledge and just kind of our attention to that. And that we're
I think
treating better.
when I read this document, one of the things that really impressed me is related to the approach that you and Amy took with them in explaining that we are unusual, you know,
Yeah, that's
and
key.
but that clearly is contained throughout their narrative. And I think you guys should be proud of the fact that, you know, you sat at the table and obviously did a really good job of walking S&P through the fact that we are unusual, and you know, our financial picture reflects the weirdness of the way that we collect, and that it takes time to do projects, and you know, and it was that really came through to me. So nice work.
I mean, how long, or Mona, how long is this good for? Like, we use this when we,
Question.
for bond and stuff. So how long is this before we'd have to do another one?
So anytime we do a public market issuance, we go through the process. And we do a lot of private placement, meaning we still go through a bid process, but it's not a public offering. So in between, you don't necessarily have to update your rating. They will typically do a ratings review that used to be every 2 years. Now it's closer to every 3 to 5. That they'll initiate on their own if they don't have occasion to do one because we're doing a public offering. So anywhere from 2 to 5 years before they'll
When
look
did
at
we
it.
do our last one?
I think it was 21.
And were we in this range?
Yes. So we have been AA since I've been here. So over 20 years. You know, if there were two things that felt new to me in their comments. One was talking about our reserves, which are very healthy, but they drew a distinction between our percentage, which is how we look at it, and actually the nominal reserve level. And so we may look at that over the next year or two, because our operating budget is relatively small. Our percentage only gives us a couple $1 million of restricted reserves. So we're going to look at that. The other thing Mona alluded to, the housing side and what they called human capital risk, and the reality that we all know about the cost of living and our ability to retain qualified employees. So again, something that they had never really touched on before.
Extraordinarily enlightened
Yep.
analysis, I thought.
So yeah, those were interesting and just things I hadn't necessarily seen rise to the top in other years.
Yeah.
So the next rating down would be an A, I take it, right?
Mhm.
You could go AA minus or an A. Yep.
And at what point does it, just my edification, what point does it change your, the borrowing benefit? You know, like your rate, is it A and A minus, would that still be within the same, or?
Obviously the variances are small, but every bit makes a difference. Sort of like a credit score, you know, every bit.
Credit score you can get swing or whatever it might be.
Right.
I was wondering, is it that wide with this, or you're saying each one has a more of an impact?
Each one has more of an impact. And so in this case, we were doing a pooled issuance with another community. Had one of the two of us been downgraded, that would have actually made a big difference in the whole structure of the deal. Yeah.
We be careful who you pull with.
We knew going in, yes, that this was a reasonable risk to move forward with, but that was certainly something we were sensitive to in this one, which we haven't been before. Like, oh, we have a partner here, and we both got to live up to our obligations.
And that when you were talking about the case was made for our uniqueness, it just struck me as ironic that we were pooled with Burrville.
And they did, each entity had a distinct report. You didn't read about Burrillville in ours, so they rated each entity and the pooled issuance together. But it's because we had the same grade, if you will. We both were AA credits, and therefore it was reasonable to pool us together as long as they're both stable in the same ways.
Yeah.
And a bulk of it was positive, the points that they made supporting their rating. They did mention close to the very end that they could reduce it. They could choose to reduce it at some point if reserves materially decreased, or if our property market values, swung down significantly.
But if borrowables were to drop down, it would impact us also.
Not after tomorrow, or, not in the next as long as it didn't happen in the next 2 weeks. Once we close,
Go.
we'll be good. Pricing on the bonds are tomorrow.
Once you close that.
We're not married to them forever.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Wonderful. Want to talk about paid parking? Beach parking permit?
I have no interest in nitpicking dollars and cents with all these little things along the way. I mean, I fought the battle over beach parking permits for so many years. It's just, it's cultural, it's part of Block Island, and it always seemed like the structure, both the individuals and the impact on the finance department, wasn't worth it.
Mhm. Anybody else? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I remember back when Ray Torrey and
Peter,
yeah, Dr. Bowdy, we kind of put their foot in the waters on these, and there was a lot of pushback. And I understand where there's a temptation for some revenue on it. I just it's not something that I'm real strong on, but certainly willing to listen to other council members.
Go ahead, Molly.
So I don't have any problem discussing it. It's just that it would have to be related to a specific expense. And
Oh, gotcha.
do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like if we decided that we needed to raise money for something
Like earmarked almost.
related, police or a shuttle service or something related to it, I think it's a really good option. I agree. There is a group of people that speak negatively about it. I've had a couple conversations that were positive about it this week that people approached me about. I think a lot of people look at it as a way to control parking downtown, which, I mean, it came up this week because people were complaining about how hard it was just this week in November to find a parking place to go to the mainland. The whole ferry parking lot is full. People were parked in the hour-long parking spaces. People were parked along the front street. So, I think people are thinking like it would be a way to enforce parking. But I don't know whether it's something that we have to have right now. But I don't have any problem having the conversation.
Yeah. I think for me, I think there might be two parking payment issues, that it's not all about paying for parking at the beach or paying for parking on Corneck Road near the beach. But I do think it's worth exploring, particularly given that with the app-based parking payments and all that, I think it might make some sense to do something in town or on or by the Hog Pen or by the Narragansett, particularly now with that new parking enforcement system that we purchased, to make enforcement easier. And while I don't do cartwheels and backflips over a beach parking permit, I do think it's a bit of an issue that enables us to talk about costs that we incur from visitors who don't make a lot of contribution to the costs that we're incurring. So, you know, I mean, I think we ask our property taxpayers to do a tremendous amount, you know, the lion's share, and looking for ways, and it may not be with beach parking, but looking for ways to generate some. The landing fee is you know is a bit of an example of this, right? Okay, we have costs that we incur. We have police officers waiting down on Water Street at the ferry. You know, that's kind of the idea. So, you know, I mean, I think it's important to have these sorts of ideas. And personally, for me, Nancy and I disagree on this. I don't view this as nickel and diming. I mean, I think it's all a part of how do you defray costs associated with essential government services. And I'm you know, I talk about really police, public works, you know, those sorts of costs. And if you had, for example, paid parking on Water Street between May 15th and September 15th, my bet is it might pay for street sweeping, or it might pay for more CSOs if we could ever find them, or you know, those sorts of things where we would be using the revenue associated with it to either defray costs or to do something new.
Like a sidewalk steamer.
You know, yeah, that's
Yes.
That's
get
why
all
I
the
think,
gum
and
and the
I
Joe's
know,
lemonade.
I know, I was like Peter Bowdy and Ray Torrey. I can remember the one of the first year I was on the council, saying that I thought we should pay parking. Unfortunately, nobody came to set my house on fire. So I mean, I know it's a really, it's, well, I think Nancy, you used the right word. It's cultural, you know, every public, you know, not every, but so many of the publicly accessible beaches in Rhode Island are paid for by, you know, you either buy your annual parking pass or you pay to park there. So it's not, but for us, that beach access is, you know, a part of our mindset. And I get that. I do. I raise it when I talk about it just as an opportunity. I hate to be so crass about it, but as an opportunity to monetize for the town some of the costs associated with visitation that doesn't generate really much in the way of revenue. That's
So I think to expand on that a little bit, I would say if we were going to have a larger conversation about this, I would have to say, I don't like the way it's agended as beach parking, because I think it has to be more comprehensive to include downtown, which is where not that many, I mean, I realize beach parking can be really tricky, like in the second week of August, right? But, as someone who doesn't have time to go to the beach in the summer, I'm a little more cranky about not being able to park downtown, right? So that's what where I think the bigger, or, you know, when you go over to New Harbor, right? Like, it's really difficult to park in New Harbor. And so I feel like it would have to be a bigger, a more expanded agenda topic to really discuss it fully, if we were going to go forward and have this discussion.
It's really funny. Nancy and I got onto not paid parking, but we were chatting this afternoon, and I said, there's a parking issue that is one of my very few issues where I have a gigantic axe to grind, and I've told Amy this, by Ken's, where You're not supposed to be parking overnight there. And increasingly, in fact, regularly now, I'm an early fish. I go out fishing early, like 4:30. And it is amazing how frequently there is not a parking place, along there. I have to park in the lot, which means that I have to get back at a certain time. So that kind of, it's just, that one bugs me. And I feel like, we passed a policy to put new signs up. The signs never went up. And perhaps some financial transaction where you have paid for your spot. And then when you haven't paid for your spot, you need to get out of there would make some sense down there. Because that area gets worse every week of every summer.
So I've asked twice now to put it on an agenda. Let's put it on a very near agenda over the next, by January at least.
So,
Because that whole stretch down at, in front of the Narragansett, the signs were always no overnight parking, which we're allowed to do. We don't have to go to the State Traffic Commission for that. We tried once to do 2-hour parking and got shot down at the, State Traffic Commission. But we've got to do something about that area down there. And it's largely, I don't know, Sands tells me it's our mooring, boat people on the moorings. I think it's boat people at Paynes too. But those cars never move,
And
Friday to
Just
Sunday, they might.
A little history to what you're saying, Nancy. I was the chief at the time, and the high speed was coming in down at
Yeah.
down at Paynes. So we wanted to make 2-hour parking, like from Dead Eyes going back in that area. And we had petitioned to the State Traffic Commission, because if a municipality wants to change it on a state road, they have to go through them. And there was some pushback and whatever it might have been from, and they didn't approve that. However, what they did say was, the state law says there's no overnight parking, 24-hour parking. So those signs you can put up, because the state law, you don't have to ask permission for that. It's only if you want to increase it less than that. So certainly anywhere on that Ocean Ave. And we did have them up for, and I don't know if they're still up. or not.
So,
We did have them up.
I said I was going to drive by this afternoon, and then of course promptly forgot. They either say no overnight parking, and they say no 24-hour parking.
Right.
And we, I thought, adopted a policy of no overnight parking there.
But we don't have that option. We have to, if we want, go ahead, Amy. Let's jump.
But we went to the State Traffic Commission.
We did go to the State Traffic Commission, who did approve, it took some time, but they did approve Ocean Ave, no parking 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. So those signs arrived towards the end of the summer and did not get installed. But that is the program that we have authority to enforce at this point.
Does Ocean Ave go all the way to paint in front of the Narragansett? It goes the whole length.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ocean Ave on
that's
the
Ocean
west side of the roadway from West Side Road to Beach Avenue.
And I support that for very deep philosophical policy reasons.
Amy, can you said from when? Oh, wait, can you say that again though, Amy? You said
From
what?
1 a.m. to 5 a.m.
The road goes from where?
Ocean Ave on the west side of the roadway from West Side Road to Beach Avenue.
Only on the west side.
In Ocean Ave. And
But there
I-
is no
I think-
parking on the other side.
I think you probably, Ocean Ave goes, it goes from Dead Eyes down in front of the
There's no parking on
Narragansett
the
to the
east side.
entrance to,
In front
that
of
a continuation of
Narragansett,
Ocean
though, on
Ave?
the right-hand side,
Oh,
right and left
yeah.
side. Yeah, the east side.
Ocean goes, I always thought Ocean.
In front of-
went from.
So in other words, if you come down, if you go by Ken's, you go to Dead Eyes, there's the intersection to go left-west. The road continues right in front of the Narragansett to the
After the
entrance to
fence.
Payne's Dock.
Yeah.
Is that portion Ocean Ave?
I will have to check the map that goes with it, which I don't have in
Yeah,
front of me.
another reason I say, because that's really, well, the area where Keith needs to park. But other than that, that area down there is also, is part of the, I think the problematic in that area.
There's a second section that defines Ocean Ave. where it meets Payne's Dock. So I think it stops right there at the
Fence.
corner.
Well, wait a minute, no, Nancy, she said something different than you just said. You're saying, Amy, you said you think it stops at the corner, meaning where the stop sign is at West Side Road and Ocean.
Yes,
So from front of Dead Eyes going down to Payne's.
is a separate section with different rules.
Right?
But no, we went, I mean, we got the taxi
So I'm,
in front of the Narragansett on the west side. Off of using Ocean Avenue they considered, at one time, they considered that.
So it's a
Ocean
different.
I'm not saying it's not Ocean Avenue. I'm
Yeah.
saying it has different parking rules. And since we are pretty astray, I'm happy to put it on the agenda
Yeah.
and we can look at
Yeah,
what was adopted most recently. And also have a conversation about reiterating enforcement for the new rules going into next season.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
'cause I-
it's really two different discussions.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's parking, where you can park, how long you can park there. And separately, we would be talking about whether we would charge for parking, right? Two separate conversations,
Yeah.
but I think downtown where we changed the rules for parking because of the street sweeper. And I feel like that's been really successful. It's cleaner.
Mhm.
Because they've been able to run the street sweeper. So, you
Yeah.
know, that really has been successful, and maybe that's something they could do along Beach Avenue.
But I know that from that area from the stops of Dead Eyes
From Beach
going
Avenue,
down
Ocean
to
Avenue.
Payne's, that other Ocean Ave, whatever. I think that area is important to be addressed because, there's breakfast place at Payne's and stuff like that. That's, it's difficult down there. The cars that are there have boats out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the people that go in to launch their boats in the boat ramp too, if you pull out.
All right, since
got-
Amy,
since I'm the one who took us way off of the agenda, I will,
That sounds good.
Well, but, beach parking and talking about a beach parking permit or a parking permit, just, and I'll end with this, reminds me of when my kids were in school. And there was always something. There was either buy the chocolates, buy the magazines, buy the wrapping paper for Christmas. That I used to say, I would much rather have a lump sum added somewhere or something that I paid.
Find
and
the place.
People
It's
pay
okay.
it in their taxes.
Not
So,
everybody pays it in their taxes. That's my point.
well,
No, they don't.
part of the problem is that we're limited in the percentage of taxes. And now the state, aside from limiting us, is also taking.
Yes,
tax money.
100%.
Wait, I think what Keith is saying is that this is a fee that would apply to the house rental where they bring 5 cars. They would have to buy a sticker for each car to be at the beach, and that they are not taxpayers. So it would be a user fee. It falls to the person using the parking, so,
Yeah, but whenever you talk about people who don't pay, it also trickles over to people who do pay, who
Right.
pay a lot.
right.
And there's no way you can really exempt them.
No, you can't exempt them. I don't know whether the state has changed their rules, but years ago, the state had a rule that whatever you were charging the general public, your exempted group, let's say residents, right? A car that's registered on Block Island, they could pay half, but you couldn't charge them less than half. So you can't charge like somebody who lives here $0 and charge somebody else $25. You see, it would have to be $12.50 and $25 or something to that effect. But that could have changed by now. I don't
I
know.
think what might be interesting also, I know the parking fines had been increased to from like $15 to $20 to $50 recently. Be interesting to see the difference in collection on that, because I mean,
yeah.
that's one way of meter parking. You have 2
Yeah.
hours, and if it's strictly enforced, I'd be
It's a
curious to
different
see
stuff.
what the
Yeah.
difference of revenue is from the
That's a
from
really
the
good
two,
point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you made the 2-hour parking, whether you had meter parking, you made 2-hour parking down by whatever it is, Ocean Ave also, with strict enforcement, it would probably be, and I don't like to use fines as revenue, but it's a reality of of getting what the objective is, you have the turnover in the
Sure.
space, and if you don't.
The key is just to get the parking to turn over,
Right.
right? So every time somebody works in a shop or a waitress takes a parking space on the front street for the entirety of their 8 or 9 hour shift, it doesn't move.
But that
For
could
that
be an
entire
enforcement- An enforcement issue, where if they
Right.
get tagged and it's $50, that's the incentive to keep the thing going, so it has to have a constant,
Exactly.
where the.
So, yeah, we have the 2 hour parking downtown now. I mean, that's easy enough, do we have enforcement and we just, how much revenue
worth a
we got
discussion.
in on parking tickets?
So we have 2 future agenda items already, just from that last agenda item.
Heat sparking.
David Lewis.
Yes.
I assume you're talking about carrying the snow parking at the beach, not only in the Fred Benson parking lots, but also down
Down corner.
at least the east side of the road, maybe the west side of the road, all the way down past Scotch Beach, correct?
Yes.
One of the things nobody has mentioned tonight is the cost of enforcing that. Because you're not looking for 2 hour turnaround at the beach. And you're gonna have to hire, and presumably you need a staff of 2 CSOs to monitor that all day long because the traffic is in and out continuously. So how much revenue are you really gonna raise in the context of that?
I think that's totally fair. I have no idea and it may be so relatively small that it's not worth it. I don't know.
And the other consideration is, and Nancy has raised it in the cultural issue. I think the local population is gonna scream bloody murder over the fact that they would have to pay $12.50 instead of $25. They're looking for the zero. I mean, you can hear it now as loudly as you can hear it, the deer discussion last week about not hunting on the weekends. So
One of the things.
I will say, just if I could just finish, because when you started to talk, I remembered one other thing I wanted to say. I do strongly support last year's effort and the ongoing effort now of enforcing 2 hour parking in town. And that really, because it's about turnover. And it also passes the sanity check in terms of enforcement because you've got most of your CSAs located in that area of the community. But you can't take the same number of CSOs and move them down to cover the neck too. So it gets back to the expense side of the ledger. Your turn, Bill.
Thanks.
I
Yeah.
think we also, can I just say,
Yeah.
I think we have to be very careful how we agenda this, because if you're gonna talk about, a parking fee, when 3/4 of this island will say there is no parking anyplace, it's gonna cause an outrage. But
Wow.
anyway.
The fact that people get outraged doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. I mean, it's like it's like, well, I mean, you can
Yeah.
laugh, but I mean, it's true.
No, I know, but it sounds like the Democrat Republican argument now, no one's talking to each other. I'm saying, certain things have been talked to death, but there's always room for another conversation.
Well, the
Just
fact that
have
it was talked to death 20 years ago doesn't mean that it's
Oh,
forever an illegitimate conversation.
Oh, no.
I also think we have to remember that, at a meeting just a couple weeks ago, we had the meeting with the Coastal Resiliency Committee, talking about the potential move of the beach house. How are we going to fund that, right? Maybe we fund moving the beach house with parking fees at the beach. It would be very directly related, and it would move forward our agenda without an impact on a financial impact on the voters. So if we were able to raise money through parking to move the beach house or to redo the parking area or to whatever it is, I think it is worth a conversation. I
Can
don't,
we target that though? I mean,
I don't
we
know.
no longer have sinking funds. It'd be nice to say, but there's no.
As the conversation evolves, we'll talk more about that. A lot of parking programs are treated as enterprise funds. Others are wrapped into the general fund. So it will ultimately depend on the goals and what people are trying to accomplish. So, depends.
Exactly. I mean, and I think we should have a clear goal before we just scattershot.
Anything else before I have a motion to adjourn?
Kid, before that, just, I hate to, well, just one more minute, but a couple of weeks ago, under the items for future agenda, Billy, you had asked about the where the pumper truck, the
Oh,
pumper
yeah.
pump was gonna be stored, and I was wondering if we're gonna put that on an agenda, if we have any.
We're working on it at the staff level, and so hopefully we'll have an update
Good.
shortly.
Okay.
Have a motion to adjourn?
Right.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Well, no, you guys have it.